Why, hello there. I have a large box that is here, not from Sendico, but from Buyee. And I ordered some interesting Japanese retro games. I have a cat here for feline assistance because this is official daily activities that require feline assistance, so I'll have to post this to that Facebook group. Yeah, and he's in my way. And my friend Katie got me an actual legit box cutter for doing just this. So Buyee is I don't know if they pronounce it like this, but you might as well do it like the millennial internet here. Buyee, and they're a competitor to Sendico, and they're very similar. They have actually really good options to win, hopefully try and assist winning auctions. So I tried to do that instead of just like buying it outright. And they also they look like they're cheaper and they advertise that they're cheaper, but they don't. So instead of having to take your money and put it on Sendico and convert it at yen at one time, they'll wait and do it for each item. And then they also don't charge for Sendico will pay for shipping fee when you actually buy the item. So for Buyee, you have to pay for that item when they actually ship it to the U.S. So it's not 100% certain that it's cheaper. It's just that they have their fees spread out in different ways. And I have a cat who's very interested in this box. As it is large. I actually ordered, so they probably overdid it. Oh yeah, they definitely did. Overdoing it with packaging. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna set this package down for a cat because the cat is very interested in this. But air filling materials, which I will cut later. A box that I will leave here for a cat. Pull down the edges so it doesn't stick out quite as much. See if the cat comes back. But first package. Collection of 2 Famicom cards. Most of these, not 100% of this is Famicom. Some of it, 2 games are Super Famicom. But I live in Oregon, and one of the movies that they filmed on Astoria on the Oregon coast is Goonies, and there's the famous Goonies house. So Konami made 2 games based on Goonies for Famicom. There is the original Goonies, which was not brought to the U.S. And then there was Goonies 2, which was brought to the U.S. Most American gamers only knew about this one, which they thought it was a sequel to the movie, but they didn't know that they had a movie adaptation called Goonies. So Goonies and Goonies 2 for Famicom. Oh, another Famicom double pack. Plastic, wrapped in plastic, wrapped in plastic, wrapped in plastic. Alright, I am a fan of old school Nintendo. This is Ice Climber. Ice Climber, one of the earliest Nintendo Famicom games on... and I was looking for a Famicom version. Not to be outdone, was, I believe, one of Iwata's first Nintendo games. Balloon Fight. Balloon Fight, sort of Nintendo's take on Joust, but well beloved in its own right. Balloon Fight. So it looks like Sendico wraps things up differently. Buyee puts these in these green envelopes, which are probably recyclable, so I'll recycle them. Aha! Yet another Famicom cartridge. Alright, I'm getting it free. Squoon. Alright, thank you. Squoon. This is an early Famicom shooter made by Irene, but one of the interesting parts about this version is that Nintendo allowed third-party manufacturers to manufacture their own cartridges, so Irene put a light, and there are 4 Famicom games that actually light up. So apparently the designer, one of the guys that I ran, was upset that Famicom didn't have a light to show that it was on, so they put an actual light in the cartridge. So I look forward to checking this out. Aha! One that wasn't wrapped again. Square, not Squaresoft, but Square's Highway Star. They apparently, Square in the 80s had an Italian programmer who, I don't know if he was Italian, no, he's European, but a gaijin working for them who was really sort of a programming wizard, and he came up with a 3D engine and made 3D World Heroes and also Highway Star. This is one of the few games that actually ports the Nintendo 3D system with glasses, brought to the US as Rad Racer. I liked this one as a kid. Ooh, another Square game. Not Squaresoft. Well, Squaresoft, but they weren't. They were called either Square or Squaresoft. They were not called Square Enix yet, so they didn't merge with Enix, which was a separate but competing company. Plastic wrapped in plastic. King's Knight. King's Knight, sort of a vertical shooter, medieval fantasy, sort of an action RPG. This is Square's first attempt at an action RPG, one of very early Square games. I never actually got into it, so I look forward to playing me some King's Knight. This was also referenced in Final Fantasy 15. Another old Nintendo game, or early Nintendo game. I like collecting early Nintendo games. They're all Nintendo actual made games for Famicom. What is this one? Mock Rider, a vertical driving game with shooting, sort of, I wonder if this was an influence on Mario Kart later on, but Mock Rider, a driving action game made by Nintendo for the Famicom, did come out in the US. Alright, Niketsu Kunio-kun, Hot-Blooded Kunio-kun. This is one of the first side-scrolling beat-em-up games made by Technos, one of the guys that went out later on to create Double Dragon, the arcade game, I believe. But this was introduced the character of Ricky, who was went on to the River City Ransom game. So this is a game that influenced the creation of both Double Dragon and River City Ransom. And then it was brought out they called it Renegade, and they reskinned the game and took out a lot of the Japanese street punk and tried to make them look like American street punks out of the Warriors. So 80s Japan masquerading as, or 80s US masquerading as 80s Japan. I messed up and accidentally bought 2 copies of this game, so someone will have to be getting it as a gift. More plastic wrapped in plastic. Oh, plastic wrapped in plastic wrapped in plastic. They put a bag inside. Japan loves bundling their stuff and wrapping it in plastic. probably have one of the highest carbon impacts right now because it's shipped around the world. Still. Alright. Twinbee 3. So there's the original Twinbee for Famicom, Moero Twinbee for I think both Famicom cartridge and Famicom disk system, and Twinbee 3, Cute 'em Up, made by Konami. Twinbee 2, brought out to the US, I believe was called Stinger, but Twinbee 3 for Famicom, because I love Konami. Loved Konami back in the day before they became pure evil and were mean to Hideo Kojima. I don't like companies when they're mean to Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima is an interesting guy. Not perfect, but very interesting. Alright. So, the other thing is like, I sort of like the user interface on Sendico seems to be a lot more centralized than Buyee. Buyee has like a Yahoo auction section and a Mercari section. So that's how I got confused. I got my Yahoo auctions confused with my Mercari, and that's how I ended up with 2 copies of Kunio-kun. But Hot-Blooded Kunio-kun. But at least they're relatively cheap games, so I will have to pass that on. Ooh, a Super Famicom game. Super Bomberman 3. I have Super Bomberman 1. I have Super Bomberman 2. And I needed 3 to complete and then 4. So I wonder if 4 is in here to complete the 5 Super Famicom games, or Super Bomberman games on Super Famicom. Oh, I have a cat! A cat in my way. All right. Another oversized Jalico game. Jalico, again, in Japan, they had a lot of leeway to different manufacturing, third-party developers manufacturing cartridges, and so they did them in different sizes. And so this is Magic John, also known as Totally Rad when it was brought to the US, but the Japanese version, Magic John, excellent little action side-scroller with magic. Has a cover on the bottom, so it has this little protective cover that you have to take off. And then there's a cat currently in the way, so I have an oversized Famicom cart that is difficult to fit in certain systems, or certain adapter cartridges. I went, so the My Arcade, oh, and I have a cat that's interested in the plastic. But not all of the Famicom cartridges, like the My Arcade adapter, doesn't fit the Jalico carts. It had like a handle on the top and it wouldn't fit. Oh, and I have a cat getting in the box. So I saw that happening. Aha! Another Super Famicom game. Ah, they wrapped it with a little ice cream sticker. But Super Bomberman 4. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Super Bomberman games for Super Famicom. I have them all, and now I have, I think I get like some special powers by collecting them all. I think I'm now the Bomberman, Super Bomberman Famicom, Super Famicom Pokemon Master. Aha, a blue game made by Nintendo. Alright, Wario no Mori, also known as Wario's Woods, which has a puzzle game with Wario as the bad guy. I believe you play a little a toad. Oh, I have a cat that's being a little spicy. But this goes down as the last game made for the Famicom, officially. last official game. Ooh, another big oversized Jalico cart. Alright. This, I'll have to check on the name, but I think it's called Sendico's Journey to the West 2, or Sendico World, which is based on the Chinese mythology, the Chinese story of Journey to the West, where you play the Monkey King. And this was brought to the U.S. and called wampum. They reskinned it and made it, well, that's not a culturally appropriate term, but they modified it to make it look like a Native American warrior instead of Son Goku. And a cat being a little spicy. My cat. Yeah. Feline activities that require daily supervision, or feline supervision. Daily household activities that require feline supervision. This video is absolutely going in there because I have a cat doing this. Alright. Yet another Famicom game based on Journey to the West. But this is Sun by Famicom, or by Capcom, an early Capcom game. This was not brought to the U.S. The sequel, Sun 2, Sun ended up in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, a rather obscure early Capcom character, but I look forward to this. Two more. Ooh, cool. Alright, Wrecking Crew by Nintendo, and it looks like on the back, oh, I have a cat that's biting my hand. They have stickers from the local Japanese game store which carry this, but really? Really? I'm in the middle of a video and you're biting my hands. Wrecking Crew. This cat. Wrecking Crew by Nintendo. I'm doing this on the table and looking outside, and I guess he wants to be outside. He's also very stimulated by the plastic. Okay, last game. Sendico World. By Jalico, and again they got a sticker by the game store that's coming, but this was a side-scrolling action game never brought to the US, so Sendico World. I believe I'm probably mispronouncing it, but I hope not. So, to recap, Sendico World 2 brought to the US as Wampum. Not exactly culturally appropriate, but whatever. It's the U.S. localization. 2 versions of Kunio-kun, Hot-Blooded Niketsu Kunio-kun, because I ordered 2 by mistake. Super Bomberman 3, Super Bomberman 4, Sun. So I have a total of 3 Famicom games based on Journey to the West. Wrecking Crew by Nintendo. Magic John brought to the US as Totally Rad. Twin Bee 3. Balloon Fight. Ice Climber. Wario's Woods. Mock Rider. King's Knight. Squoon! Highway Star brought to the U.S. as Rad Racer. Well, I got Rad Racer and Totally Rad, so this is a pretty rad. And not to be outdone, I got Goonies 1, the version that never came out to the U.S., and Goonies 2, the one that was brought out to the U.S. Alright, so I'm going to have a good time cleaning these and playing them. Hope you're going to like this. This is going to be the last video for a while. I've sort of got to the point where I want to check out some of the local game stores over in, there are 3 retro game stores in Washington and Vancouver. I live in Portland that I want to check out. And then there's also going to be a, I say that every time, but there might be you know, I want to check out. I'm going to take a trip to Seattle and go to Portland, or Pink Gorilla Games just opened a new branch on Capitol Hill. I'm sorry for doing this while. Yeah, I can take a shopping trip up to Seattle and go to Pink Gorilla Games. So I might update my import list. I know I bought a whole bunch of Famicom games. I actually need to go to IKEA and get more totes to move Famicom games, because I like to store my Famicom games on these little totes that I can then put on shelves and whatnot. I'm going to KonMari the crap out of it. All right, have a good one.